Captain Junhan straightened his dark blue uniform as he walked down the long hallway toward the Galactic Council chambers. The metal floor echoed with each step. His face showed no emotion, but inside, anger burned hot. Behind him walked 5 other humans in similar uniforms. They all kept their faces calm despite what they were about to do. "Are you ready, Captain?" asked Yuna Park, the chief ambassador from Earth. Her voice was steady, but June could see the tension in her shoulders. "As ready as anyone can be to change history," he replied. He had served in space for 30 years. He had fought in 3 border conflicts. But nothing had prepared him for today. The massive doors to the council chamber slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the room spread out like a giant bowl. Hundreds of seats circled down to the speaking floor in the center. Each seat held a different alien species. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that June still found it hard to look at them directly. The room buzzed with many languages, all translated by the small devices in their ears. The council chamber had been built inside a large asteroid in neutral space. For 70 years, this had been where humanity met with other species to discuss galactic matters. Today would be different. High Counselor Vex sat at the highest point in the room. The old amphibian-like alien had green-gray skin and large eyes that seemed to see everything. Vex had been leading the council since before humans discovered faster-than-light travel. "The council recognizes the Human Confederation," Vex announced, his voice deep and slow. The room grew quiet. June stepped forward onto the speaking platform. Lights focused on him from above. His heart beat faster, but his military training kept his voice steady. "Honored Council," he began. "For 70 years, humanity has followed your rules. We have shared our technology. We have given our resources. We have spilled our blood for your causes." He paused, looking around the room. Some aliens nodded. Others stared with unblinking eyes or whatever they used to see. "Yet when the Vreen attacked our outer colonies, your response was to form a committee." His voice grew harder. "While you talked, our people died." A low murmur spread through the chamber. The Vreen attack on human colonies near Proxima Centauri had killed over 3 million people. Men, women, and children who had been building new lives on new worlds. The Council had promised protection to all member species. That promise had proven empty. Ambassador Yuna stepped forward beside June. She held up a small crystal device. When she pressed a button, it projected a large image in the air. The image showed destroyed human settlements, burning buildings, bodies in the streets. "We asked for help 6 months ago," Yuna said. Her voice was calm but carried a sharp edge. "Your committee is still talking. Meanwhile, our people keep dying." Several council members looked away from the images. Others whispered to their neighbors. A few showed what might have been shame, though it was hard to read emotions on some. Alien faces, June continued. "The Vreen now control 3 of our colony worlds. They have killed millions, and they continue to advance." A tall, thin alien with blue skin stood up. "The situation is complex, Captain Han. The Vreen claim those territories by ancient right. We must consider all sides." "All sides?" June interrupted. The rare break in protocol caused gasps around the chamber. "There are no sides to consider when civilians are being slaughtered. Your committee's delay is not caution. It is cowardice." High Counselor Vex banged a ceremonial staff against the floor. "You forget yourself, Captain." "No, Counselor. It is the Council that has forgotten its purpose." June's voice filled the chamber. "You were formed to protect all spacefaring species, to ensure peace. Instead, you protect your own power and ancient privileges." The human delegation moved to stand beside June and Yuna. They formed a united front before the Council. "Today," June said, "I am authorized by the Human Confederation to announce our withdrawal from the Galactic Council, effective immediately." The chamber erupted in chaos. Hundreds of voices shouted at once. Some aliens stood up in outrage. Others seemed shocked into silence. Vex banged his staff repeatedly, trying to restore order. "This is most irregular. There are procedures for withdrawal, forms to complete, committees to consult." "We have completed all required documentation," Yuna said. She held up a data tablet. It has been filed with the Council Records Office, but we will not wait for more committees while our people die. A reptilian alien with red scales pushed through the crowd toward the speaking platform. You cannot defend yourselves without Council protection. The Vreen will destroy your remaining colonies. June faced the alien calmly. We will defend ourselves, Councillor Ziv. Without the restrictions the Council places on military technology, we believe we can do so effectively. This caused another uproar. The Council had long controlled which technology species could develop. Weapons, shields, faster-than-light drives, all were carefully regulated. The Council claimed this prevented arms races and wars. Many humans believed it simply kept newer species dependent on Council protection. You speak of developing forbidden technologies? Vex's voice cut through the noise. This is precisely why such regulations exist. Young species lack the wisdom to use such power responsibly. Yuna stepped forward. We have been part of this council for 70 years. We have proven ourselves. Yet you still call us young and unwise when it serves your purpose. Please reconsider, said a small floating alien that June recognized as the representative from the Elder Eye. This withdrawal endangers more than just humanity. It threatens the stability of the entire council system. Perhaps that system needs to be threatened, June replied. Perhaps it has grown too comfortable, too slow, too concerned with maintaining the status quo. He looked around the chamber one last time. For 70 years, humans had tried to work within this system. They had followed the rules, respected traditions, been patient. That patience had cost 3 million lives. Humanity will chart its own course from this day forward, June announced. We withdraw from all council treaties, regulations, and obligations. We will defend our people by whatever means necessary. As the human delegation turned to leave, the chamber fell into stunned silence. Then the shouting began again. Demands, threats, pleas. June led his people through the massive doors. They closed behind the humans with a final, heavy sound. In the beer hallway, Yuna looked at June with worried eyes. Do you think we're doing the right thing? June thought of the colonies that now lay in ruins, of the families destroyed, of all the times the council had delayed, debated, and ultimately done nothing. I don't know if it's right, he said honestly, but I know that doing nothing was wrong. As they walked toward their ship, June knew the galaxy would be watching what happened next. The council had predicted disaster whenever any species considered leaving. They had painted pictures of chaos, war, and collapse. Humanity was about to find out if those predictions were true warnings or simply threats meant to keep the council's power intact. Either way, there was no going back now. 6 months had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. Admiral Do-Yoon Kim stood on the bridge of the HCS Indomitable, the largest warship ever built by human hands. Through the wide viewing window, he watched the remains of Vreen ships float in the empty space. What was once a powerful enemy fleet was now just broken metal and frozen bodies. Status report, Do-Yoon ordered. His voice was calm despite the battle they had just won. Commander Hyejin Kang walked up to him with a small computer pad in her hand. Her uniform was neat despite the hours of tense fighting. 5 Vreen cruisers destroyed, sir. No deaths on our side. The new shield technology worked perfectly. Do-Yoon nodded, trying not to show his surprise. No deaths. Before they left the council, battles with the Vreen always meant heavy losses. Human ships simply could not stand against Vreen weapons. But everything had changed in the past 6 months. Any damage to our ships? He asked. Minor damage to the Dauntless and the Horizon. Repair teams are already working. They should be fixed within hours, Hyejin replied. The new shield technology was the key to their victory. For decades, the Council had limited what kinds of technology humans could develop. They claimed it was for safety, to prevent dangerous weapons from being created. But once humanity left the Council, human scientists were free to solve problems in new ways. Sir, we are getting a message from Galactic Council frequencies, called out Communications Officer Minho Lee from his station. Do-Yoon raised an eyebrow. The Council had not tried to contact humanity since their departure. Put it through on the main screen, The large screen at the front of the bridge flickered to life. The face that appeared belonged to High Counselor Vex. The old amphibian alien looked tired. His skin seemed more gray than green now. "Admiral Kim," Vex said. His voice sounded weaker than Do-yoon remembered. "The Council wishes to discuss the concerning developments regarding human technology." Do-yoon kept his face calm, but inside he felt a small bit of satisfaction. So the Council was finally noticing what humanity had accomplished on its own. The time for discussions was 6 months. "Ego Counselor," Do-yoon replied. "Humanity protects its own now." Vex's large eyes blinked slowly. "These advancements violate the Technological Development Treaty. The shields your ships are using are classified as restricted technology. A treaty we are no longer bound by," Do-yoon said simply. "Now, if you'll excuse me, we have Vreen strongholds to eliminate." Vex leaned closer to the screen. "You don't understand the danger, Admiral. Such technology has been restricted for good reason. There are consequences." Do-yoon signaled to Minho to cut the connection. The screen went blank. Commander Hyejin stepped closer and spoke quietly. "They're afraid, aren't they?" Do-yoon turned to look at the broken Vreen ships again. "They should be. They controlled technology to keep power for themselves. We just proved we don't need their approval to defend ourselves." "Sir," called out Sensor Officer Ji-won Choi, "I'm picking up strange readings from the edge of the system. Multiple ships, dropping out of faster-than-light travel." Do-yoon tensed. "Vreen reinforcements?" "No, sir," Ji-won replied, sounding confused. "The ship designs match Eldorai vessels. The Eldorai were one of the oldest species in the Council. They rarely ventured from their own territory, and they had always supported Council decisions. What were they doing here at the site of a human battle?" "They're hailing us, sir," Minho reported. "Put them through," Do-yoon ordered. The screen showed an Eldorai. The alien looked almost like a human with light blue skin and silver hair that seemed to float as if underwater. "Admiral Kim," the Eldorai said, "I am Commander Alara of the Eldorai Defense Force. We observed your battle from a distance. Most impressive." Do-yoon nodded in acknowledgement but remained cautious. "What brings the Eldorai so far from home, Commander? This is now human territory." Alara's expression was hard to read. "The Vreen have begun raids on our outer colonies. As well, the Council response has been inadequate." Hyejin and Do-yoon exchanged a look. "This was unexpected, and you came here to see how we deal with the Vreen," Do-yoon guessed. "Yes," Alara admitted. "Your new shield technology is remarkable. Nothing like it has been seen in centuries." Do-yoon felt proud but remained careful. The Council would say such technology is dangerous and restricted. "The Council says many things," Alara replied. "But they do not have to watch their people. While committees discuss the proper response." This was interesting. The Eldorai had always been loyal Council members. If they were questioning Council leadership now, things must be changing throughout the galaxy. "Commander Alara," Do-yoon said after a moment of thought, "perhaps we should continue this conversation in person. Would you care to come aboard the Indomitable?" A few hours later, Do-yoon sat across from Alara in the ship's meeting room. Also present were Hyejin, Chief Engineer Sunwoo Park, and Science. "Officer Min Ji-yoon." "Let me be direct," Alara said. "The Eldorai Council of Elders is considering following humanity's example and leaving the Galactic Council." The humans tried not to show their shock. The Eldorai were founding members of the Council, present since its beginning thousands of years ago. "That would be a significant change," Do-yoon said carefully. "Indeed," Alara agreed. "But we have watched what humanity has accomplished in just 6 months of independence. Your advancements have been remarkable." Chief Engineer Sunwoo leaned forward. "Once we were free to explore new ideas without Council restrictions, solutions came quickly." "That is what we hoped," Alara said. "And that is why I am here. The Eldorai wish to propose an alliance with humanity, a sharing of technology and resources, outside Council oversight." The room fell silent as the humans considered this offer. An alliance with one of the oldest and most advanced species in the galaxy was not something they had expected. Why would the Elderai want an alliance with us? Hyejin asked. You have technology far beyond ours. In some areas, yes, Ilara admitted. But your people think differently. You find solutions we would never consider. Your shield technology is proof of that. Together we could be stronger than either of us alone. Doyun thought carefully before responding. I cannot make such a decision myself. This would need to be discussed with the Human Confederation leadership. Of course, Ilara nodded. But may I tell my leaders that you are open to the possibility? Before Doyun could answer, Minho's voice came through the room's communication system. Admiral, urgent reports coming in from across human space. The Vreen are retreating, sir. Not just from our territory, but from regions they had been fighting with other council races. Everyone in the room looked surprised. The Vreen had never retreated before. It seems our victory today was more significant than we realized, Doyun said. Ilara's eyes showed something like respect. Word of your new technology has spread quickly. The Vreen understand the balance of power has shifted. And the council fears the same thing, Minji added. Yes, Ilara agreed. Which is why this moment is so important. What humanity does next will shape the future of the galaxy. Doyun stood up and extended his hand to Ilara in the human gesture of agreement. Tell your leaders we are interested in discussing an alliance. I believe we have much to learn from each other. As Ilara reached out to take his hand, Doyun realized that humanity's leaving the council had created changes no one could have predicted. What had begun as a desperate move to protect human colonies might end up transforming the entire galaxy. The Galactic Council had warned that humanity would regret leaving their protection. Instead, it seemed the Council might be the one facing regret as their carefully controlled system began to fall apart. 1 year had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. What had started as a desperate move to protect human colonies had turned into something much bigger. The carefully built power structure that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years was starting to fall apart. Director Jiwoo Choi stood before the Confederation leadership in the main meeting room on Earth. Large windows showed the blue sky and tall buildings of New Geneva, the city that had become humanity's center of government. The room was filled with the most powerful humans in the galaxy, all watching as Jiwoo presented her findings. The council system is collapsing, Jiwoo said, pointing to the large screen behind her. It showed a map of the galaxy with different, colored areas. 3 more species have now left the council following our example. The yellow areas show their territories. President Sunwoo Park, a tall woman with short gray hair, leaned forward in her chair. And what about these red areas? They've grown since your last report. Those are territories now controlled by the Arcsur hegemony, Jiwoo explained. The Arcsur have always been aggressive, but the council forces kept them in check. Now that the council is weaker, the Arcsur are expanding rapidly. The Arcsur were a reptilian species known for their military strength. They had never joined the council, preferring to build their own empire on the edges of known space. For centuries, they had been contained by council forces. Now that was changing. What about our former allies within the council? President Sunwoo asked. The Elderai have requested another meeting, Jiwoo replied. Not officially, of course. They don't want the council to know. They're worried about council restrictions making it hard for them to defend against the Arcsur expansion. Science Director Junho Bai, a man with kind eyes and a worried expression, raised his hand to speak. Our research stations have been contacted by scientists from 12 different species. They all want to work with us outside of council rules. They're tired of being told what they can and cannot study. The meeting was suddenly interrupted when the door opened. A young woman rushed in and whispered something to Communications Director Hyunju Lim. Yunju's eyes widened. We've just received an emergency message, Yunju announced to the room. The Talarian homeworld is under attack by the Arcsur. Everyone in the room looked surprised. The Talarians were council members who had often voted against human interests. They were known for their advanced art and culture, but not for their military strength. They're asking for our help, Yunju added, sounding shocked. President Sunwoo turned to look at Admiral Doyun Kim, who had been sitting quietly at the end of the table. Your thoughts, Admiral? Doyun stood up slowly. The Orcs have been contained by Council forces for centuries. With the power vacuum we created, they're making their move. He pointed to the map. The Talarians don't have the military power to defend themselves. The Council never allowed them to develop it. So we do nothing? Asked Vice President Min Ji-yoon. Let the Orcs destroy them? The room fell silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing. The Talarians had never been friends to humanity. When the Vreen attacked human colonies, the Talarians had voted against sending help. President Sunwoo was quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed. No, we will not stand by while an entire world burns. She looked at Doyun. Prepare a relief force, but make it clear this isn't charity. The galaxy needs to understand the new reality. 3 days later, a fleet of human ships arrived at the Talarian homeworld. The beautiful blue-green planet was surrounded by Orcs warships. The cities below were burning. Captain Hanbin Lee sat in the command chair of the HCS Defender. Through the view screen, he could see the other ships of the human fleet spreading out into battle formation. The Orcs are hailing us, reported his communications officer. Put them through, Hanbin ordered. The screen showed an Orcs commander. The reptilian alien had dark green scales and yellow eyes with narrow pupils. Human vessels. This is not your territory. Leave now, or be destroyed. Hanbin kept his face calm. This is Captain Hanbin Lee of the Human Confederation. You are attacking a civilian world. We demand that you withdraw immediately. The Orcs commander made a sound that might have been laughter. The humans playing galactic police now? You have no authority here. The Council has abandoned the Talarians just as they abandoned you. We are not here for the Council, Hanbin replied. We're here because attacking civilians is wrong. This is your final warning. Withdraw or face the consequences. The Orcs commander's eyes narrowed. You humans are new to space. You don't understand how things work. The strong take what they want. The weak suffer. That is the natural order. We understand perfectly, Hanbin said. We just don't agree. He turned to his weapons officer. Target their command ship. Show them what humanity's new shield technology can do. The battle that followed was short but fierce. The Orcs had superior numbers, but human ships now had technology that even the Council races had not seen for thousands of years. The new shields absorbed Orcs weapons fire while human ships fired back with deadly accuracy. Within 2 hours, half the Orcs fleet was destroyed. The rest fled back to their own territory. On the planet below, the Talarians watched in wonder as human ships drove away the invaders that their Council allies had failed to stop. 1 week later, the Talarian High Minister stood before the human Confederation leadership. The tall, slender alien had pale blue skin and 4 arms. He bowed deeply. Humanity has saved my world, the minister said. We owe you a debt we can never repay. President Sunwoo nodded. We did what was right. But now we need to talk about the future. Yes, the minister agreed. The Council failed us just as they failed you. The Talarians are considering leaving the Council as well. And what would you do then? Asked Admiral Doyun. Your people have no military experience. The Orcs will return. The minister looked nervous. We had hoped, perhaps, an alliance with humanity? President Sunwoo exchanged looks with her advisors. This was not what they had expected when they left the Council. They had only wanted to protect themselves. Now other species were looking to them for leadership. We can discuss an alliance, Sunwoo said carefully, but not like the Council system. We won't tell you how to live or what technology you can develop. Any alliance with humanity must be between equals. The minister looked surprised. Equals? But your technology is now superior to ours. Then we will help you develop your own, Sunwoo replied. The old Council kept species dependent and weak. That's not our way. As the meeting continued, reports came in from across the galaxy. The news of humanity's victory over the Orcs was spreading fast. More species were questioning their loyalty to the Council. Later that evening, Jiwoo Choi found President Sunwoo standing alone by the large windows, looking at the stars. "Did you ever imagine this would happen when we left the council?" Jiwoo asked. Sunwoo shook her head. "We only wanted to protect our people. Now we're changing the entire galaxy." She turned to look at Jiwoo. "The council is afraid of us. The Orcs have tested us, and now other species want to join us." "What do we do now?" Jiwoo asked. Sunwoo looked back at the stars. "We build something better than what the council created. A galaxy where species help each other grow, not hold each other back." The power vacuum left by humanity's departure was growing. The old order was falling apart, and in its place, something new was beginning to form. 3 years after humanity left the Galactic Council, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Captain Jin Young Kang stood at the window of the meeting room on Luna, Earth's moon. Below him, the gray lunar surface stretched out to the horizon. Above, the blue Earth hung in the black sky like a jewel. Behind him, the large round table was filling up with representatives from 27 different alien species. None of them were supposed to be here. All of them had risked the anger of the Galactic Council by coming. "They're all here," said Ambassador Subin Kwan, coming to stand beside Jin Young. "More than we expected." Jin Young nodded. "They're afraid. The Arxur attacks are getting worse and the Council can't protect them. Or won't protect them," Subin added. She straightened her formal blue uniform. "Are you ready to begin?" Jin Young took a deep breath. "As ready as I'll ever be to change history." The two humans turned and walked to the table. The room fell silent as they took their places. Jin Young looked around at the gathered aliens. Some looked almost human. Others were so different that human eyes could barely make sense of them. All were watching and waiting. "The Human Eldorei Defense Pact welcomes you all," Jin Young began. His voice was calm and clear. "Thank you for taking the risk to come here today." The Human Eldorei Alliance had been the first, formed just months after humanity left the Council. It had shocked the galaxy when the ancient Eldorei abandoned the Council to join forces with the young human species. Now it seemed others were considering the same path. "We understand your concerns about leaving Council protection," Jin Young continued. "But as recent events have shown, that protection isn't worth much." Several of the aliens nodded. In the past year, the Arxur hegemony had attacked 8 worlds under Council protection. The Council's response had been slow and weak each time. Ambassador Subin stepped forward. "What the Confederation proposes is not a replacement council. We don't want to control your internal affairs or limit your development. What we offer is mutual defense and open technological exchange." The aliens murmured among themselves. A tall being made of what looked like blue crystal stood up. This was the Matraxian ambassador. Their voice made a sound like wind chimes when they spoke. "The Council has threatened sanctions against any who attend these meetings," the Matraxian said. "They claim humanity seeks to destroy galactic peace." Subin smiled. "And yet you came anyway, because you've seen what happens when species are kept weak and dependent. The Talarians learned this lesson at great cost." The mention of the Talarians caused more murmurs. Everyone knew the story of how human ships had saved the Talarian homeworld when the Council failed to act. An insect-like alien with green, hard skin and large compound eyes raised a limb to speak. This was the Volgari representative. The Arxur would never have dared attack had humanity remained in the Council. Defense Attaché Taiwu Shin, a tall human with a serious face, replied, "The Arxur attacked because the Council's response was predictable and weak. Our ships saved the Talarian homeworld, but we cannot be everywhere at once. That's why we're here today, to ensure that each of your worlds can defend itself." "And the price for this help?" asked the Matraxian, their crystal body catching the light. "An end to the technological limits the Council enforces," said Jin Young. "Humanity advanced more in 3 years of freedom than in 50 years under Council. Restrictions, imagine what we could all achieve together." The meeting continued for hours. Questions were asked and answered. Concerns were raised and addressed. Throughout it all, The humans emphasized one key difference between their proposed alliance and the Council. They wanted partners, not subordinates. As the meeting was ending, a human aide rushed into the room and whispered something to Jin Young. His eyes widened. "We've just received news," he announced to the room. 3 more species have officially announced their withdrawal from the Council today. A ripple of surprise went through the gathered representatives. The silent revolution was spreading faster than anyone had expected. Later that evening, Jin Young and Subin sat in a small office reviewing the day's events. "Do you think they'll join us?" Subin asked. Jin Young nodded. "Most of them, yes. They're scared of the Orcs, and they've lost faith in the Council. But more than that, they're excited about what we're offering, freedom to develop, to grow. The Council won't stand by and let this happen," Subin warned. "They've ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They won't give up power easily." "What can they do?" Jin Young asked. "Their strength came from unity, and that's breaking apart. They can't force species to stay." A soft beep interrupted them. The communication screen on the wall lit up, showing Admiral Do-Yoon Kim. His face looked serious. "Captain, Ambassador," he greeted them. "How did the meeting go?" "Better than expected," Jin Young replied. "I think most will join the alliance." Do-Yoon nodded. "Good, because we have a problem. Council ships have been spotted near our research station in the Proxima system." Subin frowned. "That's inside our territory. What are they doing there?" "Unknown," Do-Yoon said. "But they're scanning the station with high-energy beams. It looks like they're trying to gather information on our new technologies." Jin Young and Subin exchanged worried looks. The research station at Proxima was where much of humanity's new shield technology had been developed. "Have they responded to communication?" Jin Young asked. "They claim they're on a peaceful scientific mission," Do-Yoon replied, his voice making it clear he didn't believe this. "But their actions say otherwise." "What are your orders?" Jin Young asked. "For now, we watch," Do-Yoon said. "We've sent ships to the area, but I've ordered them not to act unless the Council ships do something hostile. We don't want to start a conflict." After the call ended, Subin looked troubled. "The Council is getting desperate, spying on our research stations, threatening species who talk to us. They're afraid." "They should be," Jin Young said. "The system they built is falling apart. More species join us every month. The silent revolution is winning without firing a shot." He walked to the window and looked up at Earth. 3 years ago, humanity had stood alone against the galaxy. Now they were building a new alliance, one based on equality and mutual respect rather than control and dependency. "Do you ever wonder if we're doing the right thing?" Subin asked quietly. "Changing a system that's kept peace for thousands of years?" Jin Young thought about the Talarian cities that had burned while the Council debated what to do. He thought about the human colonies destroyed by the Vreen while committees discussed proper procedures. "Peace at the cost of freedom and progress isn't really peace," he said finally. "It's just control wearing a nicer name. What we're building is harder, messier, but it's better." Outside the window, ships from a dozen different species orbited the moon. Once they had been kept apart by Council rules and restrictions. Now, they were beginning to work together, sharing ideas and technologies that had been forbidden for centuries. The silent revolution continued to spread across the stars, one world at a time. 5 years had passed since humanity walked away from the Galactic Council. What had begun as a desperate move to protect human colonies had changed the face of the galaxy forever. Supreme Commander Jahoon Ryu stood at the edge of the Grand Summit Hall in New Geneva, watching as representatives from over 200 different species filled the room. The massive hall had been built specifically for this event, the first galactic summit to be held on Earth. The room buzzed with different languages, all translated by the small devices each visitor wore. Some of the aliens still represented the old council, which now included less than a third of its former members. Most belonged to what many called the human paradigm, independent worlds joined together for mutual defense and technological cooperation. "Nervous?" asked Ambassador Yuna Park, coming to stand beside Jahoon. Her hair had more gray in it now, but her eyes were as sharp as ever. "A little," Jihoon admitted. 5 years ago, we just wanted to protect our colonies. Now we're hosting the largest diplomatic gathering in galactic history. Yuna smiled. History has a way of taking unexpected turns. At the center of the hall, President Sunwoo Park stepped onto the raised platform. Though now in her 70s, she stood tall and strong. The room gradually fell silent as she prepared to speak. 5 years ago, humanity stood alone. Sunwoo began, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall. We withdrew from the council not to isolate ourselves, but because we recognized the fundamental flaws in a system that kept peace through enforced inequality. The gathered representatives listened closely. Some nodded in agreement. Others looked less convinced. Today we face new challenges, Sunwoo continued. The Orcs' hegemony has been contained but not defeated. The remnants of the council seek to undermine our alliance. But look around you. Species that were once restricted from developing basic defensive technologies now stand as equals. Worlds that were deemed too primitive for full council membership now contribute innovations that benefit us all. Jihoon looked around the room. It was true. Species that had been kept dependent on council protection for centuries were now developing their own technologies, defending their own worlds. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone could have predicted. Ambassador Yuna stepped forward to join President Sunwoo on the platform. The human paradigm is not perfect, she said. We have disagreements, conflicts of interest, cultural misunderstandings. But we address these as equals, not as subordinates to an established power structure. Suddenly, there was a commotion at the back of the hall. The doors opened and a small group entered. They wore the formal blue and gold robes of the Galactic Council. At their head walked a familiar figure, High Counselor Vex. The ancient, amphibian alien looked much older now. His green-gray skin had faded to a pale color and he walked with the help of a staff. But his large eyes were as alert as ever as he made his way toward the center of the hall. A murmur spread through the crowd. No one had expected the council to send representatives to this summit, much less the High Counselor himself. President Sunwoo maintained her calm as Vex approached the platform. High Counselor Vex, she greeted him. This is unexpected. Vex looked up at her, his large eyes blinking slowly. President Sunwoo, he began, his voice wavering slightly. The council has authorized me to open discussions regarding reforms. The word hung in the air. Reforms. After thousands of years of ruling the galaxy their way, the council was finally willing to consider changes. A buzz of conversation swept through the hall. Jihoon exchanged a look with Yuna. This was not what anyone had expected. President Sunwoo's expression remained neutral. The time for reforms within the council framework has passed, Counselor, but we welcome you to observe these proceedings. Perhaps you will understand what we have built in your absence. Vex seemed to shrink a little at her words, but he nodded and moved to take a seat at the side of the hall, his aides following behind him. As the summit continued, representatives from dozens of worlds shared their experiences. The Talarians spoke of how they had rebuilt their defenses after the Orcs' attack. The Matraxians presented new communication technology developed in partnership with human scientists. The Volgari described how their world was now safe from raiders for the first time in centuries. Throughout it all, Vex and the other council representatives watched and listened. During a break in the proceedings, Jihoon found himself approached by a young officer, Lieutenant Hyunwoo Kim. Sir, Hyunwoo said, is it true that you were there when Captain Han announced our withdrawal from the council 5 years ago? Jihoon nodded. I was just a junior officer then, part of the security detail. Did you ever imagine it would lead to all this? Hyunwoo asked, gesturing around the hall where hundreds of different species mingled and talked freely. Jihoon looked out over the gathered representatives, former enemies now working together, species that had once looked down on humanity now, seeking their guidance. No, he admitted. We only knew we could no longer accept the old way of doing things. The galaxy watched in dread as humanity abandoned the council, fearing what would follow. But sometimes the greatest progress comes only after you're willing to walk away from a broken system. Later that day, as the formal meetings ended, Jihoon noticed Vex sitting alone. The old counselor looked tired. On impulse, Jihoon walked over and sat down beside him. "It must be strange for you," Jihoon said. Seeing all this, Vex's large eyes turned to him. "When humanity left the council, we predicted disaster, war, chaos, the collapse of galactic civilization." He gestured around the room. "Instead, you created this." "We didn't do it alone," Jihoon replied. "Every species here has contributed. The council ruled for over 10,000 years," Vex said quietly. "We believed our way was the only way to maintain peace. We thought younger species needed our guidance." "Perhaps that was true once," Jihoon said. "But all children must grow up eventually." Vex was silent for a long moment. "The remaining council worlds will resist joining your human paradigm." "It's not our paradigm," Jihoon corrected. "It belongs to everyone who participates, and we don't need the council worlds to join. The door is open if they wish, but we will continue either way." "And what of the Orcs?" Vex asked. "They grow stronger despite your containment efforts." "We'll face that challenge together," Jihoon said. "Not by restricting our allies, but by helping them grow strong enough to defend themselves." As Vex left to rejoin his delegation, President Sunwoo came to stand beside Jihoon. "What did the old counselor want?" she asked. "I think he wanted to understand," Jihoon replied. "For thousands of years, the council believed they were the only thing standing between the galaxy and chaos. Now they've seen there's another way." Sunwoo nodded. 5 years ago, we took a leap into the unknown. We had no idea where it would lead." "And now?" Jihoon asked. Sunwoo looked out over the hall, where hundreds of different species from across the galaxy were working together, sharing ideas, building something new. "Now we know that the galaxy's fear was misplaced," she said. "They watched in dread as humanity abandoned the council. But what followed wasn't destruction. It was a new beginning." Around them, the summit continued, mapping out the future of a galaxy transformed not by conquest or control, but by the simple courage to imagine something better.